Hey everyone! So I'm taking a bit of a reprieve from making older videos, as doing these top 10 lists made me think about new ideas, and I figured I wanted to do another one. So today I'm going to be doing my top 10 favorite video games. Only it's not going to be a top 10 since I can talk much more about video games than I can about movies. So it's just going to be a top 5 list with a couple of honorable mentions and some side games. So as per usual, the list number doesn't really count. I mean, you could argue number 1, but either way, I love all these games for various reasons, and it kind of depends on what mood I'm in or what new games have been announced. My love of them will kind of fluctuate. I mean, right now I'm kind of in a Kingdom Hearts mood, but that will probably last about a month and then I'll be back to normal. Also, I may have more than one favorite per franchise, so within most of these, each number is going to have more than one game, but the numbers are made up, the reasons don't matter, the universe is a lie, buy gold. Anyway, here's my top 5 favorite video games. Number 5, Harvest Moon. My choices are Friends of Mineral Town and A New Beginning. So, I spent months of my young life playing Friends of Mineral Town. I played it so much it was one of the first games of my childhood where I had a whole spiral notebook full of notes, like favorite gifts, event times, crop patterns, etc. I obsessed about it. So before you ask, of course I married Potpourri, pink waifu for laifu. Then a couple of years ago, actually, it was more like 4 or 5 years ago now, I got back into the series pretty heavily. A friend I had at the time recommended A New Beginning. They were really into Harvest Moon, and said that was the best game they had played of the series. So I didn't want to buy it digitally, but a couple months later, after her telling me about it, I went to Seattle, and I managed to find it at EB Games. Oh, well, I guess that's GameStop down there. And boy, that was the best find I've ever had. I, honest to goodness, have put well over 200 hours into the game. I got giant animals, perfect crops. I had 2 save files. In one, I married Neil, because, he's the first guy you unlock, and, he's kind of the emo boy. And I married Alan in another, because he actually surprisingly looks a lot like what I do in real life, except for the pink hair part. In actual Harvest Moon games, I consider this to be the last good game. Aside from my childhood favorite and A Wonderful Life, it's as close to a perfect Harvest Moon game as you can get. There aren't any huge gimmicky concepts like in the Wii ones, and it's not as tedious as the older Game Boy and older ones. It's just a perfect Harvest Moon game. Oh, by the way, yes, I love Storybook of Seasons. Yes, I know about Stardew Valley. However, in terms of sheer nostalgia and pure enjoyment, I think Harvest Moon contributed more to that in the long run for me. Number 4, Pokemon. We have Leaf Green, Gold, and Y. So my first real Pokemon games as a kid, like the actual console ones, not some spin-offs like Pokemon Channel or Coliseum, were Leaf Green and Gold. 10-year-old me put 170 plus hours into Gold, which was a huge deal back then. Leaf Green was also my complete Pokédex, as my sister had Fire Red, but she didn't have Silver, so I never ended up completing the dex 100% on Gold. When I first moved out, I had stopped playing Pokemon for several years, and I bought White 2 kind of to get me back into it, but right in the beginning of November, 2013, I'd quit my job and was heavily involved with a writing group in my city, and someone had bought Pokemon Y, played it for an hour, and hated it, and he was selling it for half of its brand new price, and it released like a week ago. So I jumped on that in a heartbeat, and well, the story that gets told in my friend circle is that it's the reason I stayed unemployed for over a month. My best friend at the time had X, and she came over to my house, stayed for over a week. We wonder traded and game chatted and learned to clone all night long. We didn't sleep, we didn't eat, we didn't change our clothes. It was kind of a nightmare, but we 100% completed that Pokédex and got the shiny charm. It was a wonderful time. Like, the first time since I was a kid that I felt that way about a Pokemon game. I was so thoroughly invested. It is my favorite Pokemon game ever. And number 3, Star Fox Adventures. And no one is surprised that a frickin' furry likes Star Fox Adventures. But hear me out. We got a GameCube, the Christmas it came out. For my family, this was a huge frickin' deal, since anyone who knows me or the town I grew up in, everyone and all of its technology, it still is at least 10 years behind the rest of the world. So yeah, it was a big thing. Anyway, the GameCube came with a game. It was some sort of Zeller's Christmas promotion, and apparently my parents weren't allowed to pick. We know this because they kept bringing that up, that they got a one-player game. And with 3 younger sisters, I wasn't really allowed any one-player games at the time. I mean, I was like 8 or something. So anyway, this was revolutionary. My sister and I played it endlessly. Her and I were super obsessed. We were avid members of the GameSpot forum, even though you had to be like 13 to join. We lied. But I commonly cite this game as a reason I'm a furry, to no one's surprise. But it's funny, after all this time, every time we end up getting together for a weekend, her and I still speedrun it. I mean, we must be up to the 300th time by now, and I really don't expect it to stop anytime soon. I know a lot of people hate this game, and I mean, I do understand it's not a traditional Star Fox game, but just listen to the soundtrack, that beautiful David Wise soundtrack. Watch the landscape transition through the day cycle and night cycle, and tell me that it isn't a wonderfully made game. I've never, in the 300 or so playthroughs, ever had a game-breaking glitch or any gameplay problems with it. So regardless of if it's a Zelda clone or not, it's a wonderfully made Zelda clone, and y'all can fight me on that. Number 2, Kingdom Hearts 2. The only reason I had any friends in high school. No, seriously. In grade 9 drama class, I met this girl who was super awkward like me, and she either talked about or was drawing Kingdom Hearts. And I had no idea what it was, but we ended up kind of becoming friends, kind of, because I kept asking her questions about it, and we kind of opened up. But after meeting her, Kingdom Hearts was my life. I mean, I wrote way too much shitty fan fiction for stupid, like, almost crack ships. It was the only reason I bought a PS2, and she drew me so much smutty ship art. I mean, I still have most of it in my storage somewhere. It's beautiful. Anyway, we ended up meeting another friend, and the 3 of us made Kingdom Hearts comic dubs in the vein of Spoonie-chan. And the account, which has been dormant for 8 years or so, still has 100,000 subscribers. And no, they were not good. Our blooper reels were longer than the actual dubs themselves. They were terrible. And no, I'm not going to say the name of the channel, because even a ridiculous furry like me has some dignity left. Oh, on to number 1. And no one will be surprised at all. It's Animal Crossing and Animal Crossing New Leaf. So anyone who knows me or has heard me rant and rave about this series and knows my ungodly collection of merchandise knew this was coming. So the year we got our GameCube, I guess one day my sisters and I had been like super good for a while. Like we had been good for like a month or so. No fights, doing chores. I don't know. We weren't even trying to manipulate anyone or get anything. I guess we'd just been so good that my parents decided they needed to treat us with a new game. And it turned out to be Animal Crossing, and it turned out to be a big mistake. So the GameCube was my next younger sister in my room, since we all shared rooms, and her and I, we were the 2 closest in age. We stayed up all night for many, many nights doing night fishing, ghost hunting, other shenanigans. And I mean, this wasn't the first game we did that with, nor would it be the last, but it's a pretty dang indicator of how much that a certain game means to me. Is how many nights did I stay awake as a kid playing it. Anyway, we both ended up paying off our loans without cheating, and we completed the museum without cheating. The only thing we cheated on, I remember, were furniture sets. We had pages and pages of those long nonsense codes written out. I remember those so well. It was so part of the game. Later on, this game would actually be pretty integral to a part of my therapy, as my psychiatrist believed that she used it as a way to help people through traumatic healing, and not to get like too deep or down or anything. Like, I owe this game a lot. The town I had during that time is not the same town I had as a kid. For this one, I didn't pay off my loans. I didn't complete my museum, but it kind of helped me open up. It kind of helped me get through a lot of tough shit. Because it just, I don't know, I wasn't the first person she tried this method on, and I wouldn't be the last, but, you know, it even now, during my low moments, like, it helps to open up the original soundtrack on YouTube and just listen. It kind of makes me, like, a weird sad, almost, but in a way that can kind of help me calm down and kind of reevaluate all these situations. Well, here's a happier topic. It's going to be New Leaf. So, after moving into a brand new place for the 7th time in less than a year, starting my 2nd year of university, and having to quit a job due to management, which I'll get into in the much later video, but still working another job at a funeral home, while growing increasingly more and more depressed, on top of having no friends or family living around me, one day I came home and there's a copy of New Leaf sitting on top of my hedgehog's cage. I hadn't really played Animal Crossing since the GameCube, and I didn't play City Folk due to a chronic hand tremor that I have, so I was pretty stoked at, being at such a low point and having a familiar thing to come home to, but I didn't own a 3DS at the time. I was allowed to borrow one for the cause, and this is going to sound unnecessarily dramatic, but for the 2nd time of my life, Animal Crossing pulled me out of a really dark place. Like, I was dealing with some dark shit, and okay, so maybe now I have some pretty dang good memories of the game not related to that, and it didn't start off like this either. Like, it's just kind of, that was the in-between phase of Animal Crossing, but, it means so much to me even now. I completed all my loans, museum, the emotion bank, encyclopedias, shopping center. It's kind of bittersweet because I don't really have a reason to play it much anymore. I completed everything that somebody can possibly complete. And the soundtrack is equally as wonderful as on the GameCube one. I mean, it's the only game that I can fully, without having any qualms about saying, is perfect. Like, I tried to find a flaw thinking about it. I tried to think of an issue I had, but I couldn't think of a single thing that I disliked about Animal Crossing New Leaf. Seriously, it is a perfect game. If there ever is a perfect game, it would be this. Well, I guess I mentioned honorable mentions in the beginning of this video. Well, I just kind of want to give a shout out to these rather than talk about them. So there's Project Diva as the series, Tales of Symphonia, and the Donkey Kong Country series, all of which are reasons I have very specific friends, and I have some wonderful memories attached to them. But that's kind of as deep as I'm going to go with these ones, because they didn't mean quite as much in the long run. Anyway, this has gone on for much longer than a top 5 list should have been, and I'm sorry for that. Anyway, it's a big thank you to my patron Jupiter, who is still a trooper. You should definitely join them. The link for that is down in the description. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you again next week.